Welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Every week on this podcast, we talk about all things mental health, sometimes stress or anxiety. Perhaps you're burned out. Well, this is the podcast for you. We sit down with the wonderful counselors at Crosswinds Counseling and have a great conversation every week. Let's dive into this week's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Joining us today, Phil Erichsen, one of the excellent therapists at Crosswinds Counseling. Phil, thanks for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me today.
We are talking about something that we've talked about before. We want to revisit it occasionally. It's always a good topic to dive into because there are so many people who have misconceptions about this topic. And the topic is what to expect in counseling. And I think a lot of people who are considering it, who maybe think, oh gosh, I don't know. I'd love to see a counselor, but I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried. What should I expect? What do I need to do to get ready for counseling? What is it going to be like? These are the questions in people's minds. So Phil, you've been doing this for a long time. So give us kind of an overview of what people should expect when they sign up for counseling.
Well, typically when they're coming into counseling, they're wanting to work on some specific issue or some specific area in their life that they're struggling or wrestling with. And usually they have some kind of goal in mind. And for what's worth, sometimes people don't actually have the goal in mind. They can know what they don't like about their life or what's going on. And they might not have an idea of where they want to go, but they know they want things to improve.
Yeah.
And I think that's where things can get a little complicated because, you know, we can often know the things in life that we don't enjoy, that we're experiencing, that don't feel good. We feel off. We can feel down or worried or anxious or whatever word you want to use there on the negative side there. But sometimes it can be hard, especially in those times, to know what we want to work towards. And then often a lot of people can overthink what they're thinking about counseling and what to do in counseling. They can overthink what counseling is and what a therapist is, their role and the therapist's role, and it can get overwhelming. And a lot of people can be worried just about calling in to schedule an appointment or even just taking the initiative to go to that first session. And a lot of people can know they have issues or things that they're struggling with, and they know they might benefit from counseling, but they overthink all these potential obstacles that come to counseling.
So before we even dive into maybe some things that people can do before counseling to be prepared, let's try to debunk that myth that you should be scared of counseling, that it's this big, scary, unknown thing. So much of it is just having a conversation. It's just developing a relationship with somebody who happens to be skilled in helping you. So tell me about what it actually looks like in there. It is just relational conversation for the most part, right?
Yep. I mean, a little thing about therapists, we love to help people and we want to help you. We went into this field because we love people and we want to dive in. Believe it or not, we want to dive into your mess. I know that can sound crazy, but we're those people that love that. And we want to be a part of your journey and help you get to where you want to go. With that said, we also have to get to know you. And that's usually the first step there. And there's lots of things that can come with that. One of the big things is, even before counseling, making sure to fill out that paperwork ahead of time.
Right.
It gives us kind of an idea of what's going on in your life. Gives us kind of a heads up as to why you're coming into counseling, especially if you fill out all the little information thing. And then we're not going in blind. But by the way, even with that, if you're not even sure how to explain all that, that's okay. We can work with that. I've been doing this 15 years. Like I mentioned earlier, just a little bit ago, people come in and sometimes they have no idea. They can just know, hey, something's off. And we therapists, we can work with that. We are fine with that. But one of the big things is that, and I like to tell everybody, my friends or anyone going to counseling, that it is okay to be nervous. Let me repeat that again. It is okay to be nervous when going into counseling. Okay. And in fact, when I was in college, for this, so all these years ago, they actually recommended us to go to counseling ourselves so as we could know what it was like to have to do this whole process. And it was an eye-opening experience because at the time I was happy, I was doing well. I mean, school wasn't always fun. I wasn't a big fan of school, but you know, I got through it, obviously. Okay,
right.
But I was doing well, so I wasn't really going in for anything. Now my therapist, it was so fantastic. There's always stuff we can work on, right? But I went into it and I was nervous calling in. I was nervous sitting in the lobby. And on the way there, I was nervous because the reality is you're meeting a stranger. You're meeting somebody that you don't know, and you're kind of divulging all this personal, deep stuff that's going on in your life. Now, you can know and trust, like, hey, we do this because, once again, we signed up there for this because we love people and we want to help. And so there's a trust aspect of that, but still, it is a stranger, and that's okay to be nervous about it. I was going into this field for all of this stuff, and I was nervous back then, so I can understand why people go in with some angst, and that's totally normal.
So the school was trying to get you to create empathy, right?
Yep,
they were
absolutely.
trying to get you to be empathetic to the process and to the whole situation. Did it work? Do you feel like that? You said it was eye-opening, but is that something that you've carried with you through your career to try to see it through the lens of what this person is experiencing?
Yep. In fact, that's why I shared this with you. I will share that sometimes with my clients, especially if they come in with anxiety or worry or fears. I'll ask them the question for session, like, what was it like coming in today?
Yeah.
And it's amazing because many times when I've shared this, I can see them kind of calm down because lots of people will think, hey, I'm going to therapy. It should just work and I should just be able to do it and everything should just be right and it just all fixes itself. And that's not how life works. Our life is complex and it can get messy, and that's okay. And it can take time to work on things. And so people will come in and they think just because they're nervous or that they stumble over their words or that they don't know how to describe even what's wrong or what they want right, they think there's something wrong with them. And no, that's normal. Okay, that is totally normal.
As a therapist, are you ever nervous when you're in that first meeting with a client, or is it all the excitement of, I get to help somebody, here's a new adventure, here's a new challenge, or are there some nerves even on your side of it?
Well, okay, since doing this 15 years, so like, it takes a lot to shock me now at this point in my career.
I'm sure.
But so I'm actually authentically excited to meet with clients when meeting them new. The only things that might get me nervous, I mean, I may have had someone that I thought it was just a married couple, but they brought in their family of 9, and I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
And so that might be, a surprise. Okay. Like if you're thinking 2 compared to 9, that might be a change. But other than stuff like that, I really just adapt now. And sometimes more the merrier. I like meeting more people. I really like people.
Great.
So.
Phil, you mentioned paperwork. Paperwork is mandatory for Crosswinds counseling, but it's also incredibly helpful for the therapist to get some idea of what we're entering into. What are other practical tips that you would give people to do ahead of time to prepare to be ready for counseling and to be in the best space for the counseling to be effective?
Fantastic question. If I were to recommend like one specific thing, people don't have to do this, but it does help if you, prior to counseling, kind of write down some main points or jot down in your phone, or I have people write them down on paper or something like that. Some main points you want to hit on of why you're coming to counseling, because that's usually that's the main purpose. That's the thesis. That's the whole thing of why you're coming into counseling. And so therapists, a lot of our questions are going to be geared around your chief complaint or your primary issue or your primary concern. And so we'll ask things like, how has it been impacting your daily life? What attempts have you made in the past to try to solve or work through this issue? How long have you been experiencing this issue? I love asking the question, what do people in your support system have to say about your presenting concern or issue? And that gives lots of insight. But we ask those questions because those can kind of give us a history and understanding of where you're at with it. Because if someone just comes in and says, hey, I struggle with being depressed. Okay. And now by the way, that's fine. Once again, we can work with if you don't have all these answers, but it helps to be prepared because look, you're going to have this spotlight on you, and it's an unfortunate reality, because you're coming in and you're going to have to describe all these things once again to a stranger. So that's That's hard enough. So you're going to be probably, almost all people are nervous. And so you're going to stumble and you might forget things, and you might, I've had so many clients, the second session, I'll ask them the question, hey, was there anything that you forgot to relay to me that you wanted to in the first session? I can't tell how many times people are like, I came in and I was like, I got to say this one thing. And then they forget that one thing.
Wow. Just because of nerves.
Yep. Just because they're nervous.
Wow.
Because a lot of people don't know what to expect when they come in. I mean, I have people ask, am I supposed to like lay on the couch? I lie down. I'm like, no, we haven't done that in a long time. And now you can if you want to. Okay. But like, we haven't done that in a long time. Right. Okay. So people, movies and stuff like that have definitely stained kind of what therapy actually is. I've had people think that they're supposed to come in and cry. Like they have to, and if they don't, then they're not doing it right. And I'm no. I mean, we do have tissue here, but right. that's not what we're trying to go for here. And you can cry, by the way. That's okay.
What other tips, Phil, would you give to somebody? What should they know when they're considering counseling?
That's a good question. What should they know? I would say that just coming to counseling is a great step and progress in their therapy, basically, in how they're working towards their goal. A lot of us, we're internalizing all these things that we're dealing with, and we don't externally process. And also the neat thing about counseling, I forgot to mention this, the neat thing about counseling is, since I'm the quote unquote non-biased person, I don't know you, so I don't know your history and everything. It's different than explaining things to a friend or a family member, because they know a lot of your history. So You're having to explain it in a new way that you've never had to before, from scratch. Okay. And so I don't know all these things, so I'm not leading you anywhere. You're just telling me it as a whole. And many times people just externally processing, it helps them to solve, or at least start solving the problem. A lot of people, when they come in after that first session, just sharing information and hopefully feeling comfortable and rapport with the therapist, they just start to feel better. And I think as therapists, one of the things, at least in college, they said, and I firmly believe, we're supposed to provide hope. And if we can provide hope and help increase that motivation, the more motivation you have going in, the better. And if we can help cheerlead and build up that motivation in you, I think that definitely helps.
Yep, that's great. Phil, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. It is a scary topic at times to consider counseling, especially for the first time. You can learn more about not only Phil, but all the therapists and Crosswinds Counseling in general at crosswindscounseling.org. You can also book an appointment there if you are ready to take the step of seeing a therapist. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. Thanks again, Phil.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more of our podcast. And you can comment in the section below. Perhaps you could share what you'd like us to discuss in future episodes. We've got new episodes coming out every week. So we'll see you next time on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling.